The political debate here in Britain in recent decades has been based on a false premise that we can either produce more or look after the environment. The truth is, we need to do both.
And privilege will replace my philosophy.
I recognise that we, government, industry, the scientific community and others owe a duty to the British public to reassure them that GM is a safe, proven and beneficial innovation.
And privilege will replace my philosophy.
Farmers wouldn't grow these crops if they didn't benefit from doing so. Governments wouldn't license these technologies if they didn't recognise the economic, environmental and public benefits. Consumers wouldn't buy these products if they didn't think they were safe and cost-effective.
My proprietary sense of self will entitle all of my thinking until I'm led to believe that my needs are led to believe they need me, until I'm led to believe again and believe.
Owen Patterson is right about something. It is time for a more informed discussion about genetically modified crops. Coming from the US to study in the UK, I thought I was finally free to be able to choose what I put in my body again. The first thing I noticed here, well, besides arugula being called rocket, eggplant aubergine, fries chips, and chips crisps, was how good the tomatoes here taste. And then I read something about how the UK developed a genetically modified purple tomato, which supposedly has the same health benefits as blueberries and can fight cancer. The idea is to get it all the way to our kitchen tables in the form of purple ketchup and pizza sauce. My entire life I've had to eat my tomatoes and blueberries separately, but there's something about my New York style pizza having red sauce that I'm not sure I ever want to give up. And I'm also not sure I ever want to see this already wonderfully tasting UK tomato ever change. So how did this whole GM thing ever even become a part of our foods? And where is it all heading?
I am more convinced than ever that we need a bold Food for Peace program as an antidote to the Soviet Union's 7-year program of economic competition with the Western world. As we all are aware, the Soviet Union is trying to catch up with our enormous superiority in agricultural achievement. We are still far ahead in this arena of competition. We have not even begun to exploit our agricultural superiority. Here is the question before us. Is the United States to counter the Soviets' effort by a drive not towards superproduction, but by drastically reduced production? Are we to continue to witness the inexcusable folly in our own country of preventing American agriculture from playing its essential role in the winning of the Cold War? In other words, are we going to treat the productivity of the American farmer as a blessing or as a curse? Half of the world's population still goes to bed hungry every night because half of the world's peoples are undernourished, because America's food, which, thank heavens, we are in a position to export, gives us a weapon which the Soviet Union does not even dream of having 7 years from now. My goal is to use food for peace, food to nourish, to link nations in friendship, food to fulfill the biblical mandate, to feed the hungry and heal the sick, help win the Cold War and prevent the Hot War. If you are looking for a way to get people to lean on you and to be dependent on you in terms of their cooperation with you, it seems to me that food dependence would be terrific.
So with the Cold War, we already see political reasons for expanding a nation's agricultural prowess across the planet. And it obviously wasn't your local farmer who woke up one day thinking, I need to go international. It has taken big business to exert this control over our food systems. And they didn't step in during any peaceful day on the farm. From 1948 to 1960, the British Commonwealth and the Malayan Communist Party were entangled in a guerrilla war. In the early years of the war, Britain sprayed Malayan crops and vegetation with an herbicide that contained dioxin, a deadly contaminant. This may sound a bit familiar because of another infamous war.
The first thing that the Army had to overcome in Vietnam was the terrain itself. Approximately 80% of the country is undeveloped wilderness, or in the southern part of the Republic, endless marshes, bogs, and waterways of the Mekong Delta. All of the land features which are unfavorable to a modern, highly mechanized fighting force are used by the Viet Cong as a weapon against the American military effort there.
We're gonna sing the windy song, the windy song, the windy song. We're gonna sing the windy song until it starts to rain. Supercharged tank. People are the scourge of the earth. 3 dead trees, World Bank, sucking out all her juice, drilling holes in the ocean floor, shooting loads in her face. Nuclear fucking war. Nuclear fucking war. Nuke, nuke, nuke the world. Nuke, nuke, nuke the world. Nuke, nuke, nuke the world, and we'll all be dead. And we'll all be dead. And we'll all be dead.
Developed in the late 1940s, 2,4,5-trichlorophenoxyacetic acid, or 2,4,5-T, made up 1/2 of the Agent Orange mixture. It was also a widely used herbicide in the United States until the late 1970s, and it was banned completely in 1985 by the EPA. Why? Because it was not well understood that the manufacturing process itself contaminated 2,4,5-T with 2,3,7,8-tetrachlorodibenzo-P-dioxin, or TCDD. In simpler terms, dioxin is extremely toxic to humans and other living beings, but we sprayed it on our crops for over 30 years. And these companies, reckless as they may have been, were banking off our agricultural systems. In comparison, GM foods have been on the market for less than 20 years. But surely companies like Dow and Monsanto wouldn't create something without the best intentions for humankind and the environment, or continue to make these same mistakes, right? Along with 4 other companies, Dow and Monsanto teamed up to create the Agricultural Biotechnology Council, the ABC, in order to change the public perception of GM.
Columbus, he sailed the ocean blue, carrying our forefathers in tow. And they would do a lot of things like work and vote and make no kings, and they'd rape the land and the people as they would go. Came and their money it went, and they'd look back at the lives they had all spent, and they'd hide their shame from the history that is taking more.
Consumers wouldn't buy these products if they didn't think they were safe and cost-effective.
This is the problem. We generally do think the food available at our local grocery is safe, and food should be affordable. But there is a difference between red and purple. And the fact of the matter is that purple tomatoes and other genetically modified foods haven't been tested by Mother Nature over long periods of time. That's not to say we shouldn't believe in science, but we should consider who the scientists work for. They are changing the genetic makeup of living plants, adding and removing wanted and unwanted genes to make them taste better, store longer, resist insects, turn purple. When a combination works out, they run the field tests themselves and then mass produce their seeds to spread across the world. And these seeds are patented. This allows corporations to own the rights to life, monopolize the supply, and control prices for these seeds while making it illegal for others to run their own scientific tests on their products. And they pay millions just to keep GMO labels off their products. The labeling remains mandatory in 64 countries. They do not want you to know if what you are eating has been genetically modified. As of April of 2014, a bill was introduced to the United States government to ban labeling on all GM foods across the country. But nobody is spending nearly the same amount to lobby our politicians toward natural foods, nor are they advertising to shove organics down our throats like these corporations have been for GM foods for years.
You are a happy person. Don't you wish people were more agreeable in this day and age? Why ask so many questions about life when you can just live it? If you simply don't care, then genetically modified foods may be right for you. GM foods have been on the market for less than 20 years, so there is no real research on the long-term effects on humans. Independent research is nearly impossible due to existing patents on life and intimidating laws that protect large agritech companies such as Monsanto, Pioneer, and Syngenta. By consuming GM foods, you become our guinea pig in this large-scale scientific experiment. GM foods may cause inflammation, altered metabolism, kidney and liver malfunction, cancer, damaged immune systems, and reduce fertility in both men and women. Susceptibility to allergies may also increase, including new allergies that never before existed. If you have any allergic reactions, including rash, hives, swelling of the eyes, lips, tongue, throat, or face, difficulty breathing or swallowing, or are simply worried about prolonged exposure to these potentially dangerous and untested products, please stop eating GM foods. However, companies like Monsanto have funded most of the available research on GM foods for medical and scientific professionals, so please go ahead and ask your doctor if GM foods are the right choice for you.
As GM crops continue to spread across the nation's available arable land, it means that the few companies who hold patents to these GM seeds are reaping all of the benefits. Remember the film The Corporation? One quote that has always stuck with me from that film is, "The corporation is legally bound to put its bottom line ahead of everything else, even the public good."
If you are looking for a way to get people to lean on you and to be dependent on you in terms of their cooperation with you, it seems to me that food dependence would be terrific.
Spread, spread, spread the germ. Spread, spread, spread the germ. Spread, spread, spread the germ. And we'll save the earth. And we'll save the earth. And we'll save the earth. Under a microscope, slip it in an envelope. Sign the guys who make guns and their fortunate fucking sons. Put it in a styrofoam cup, give it to your banker
We need more investment in biotech.
We should push a focus on plants and biotech at all levels of education.
Let's start a public debate about the role of biotech.
The UK should become a centre for training the developing world.
All relevant government departments must agree to a more cohesive science framework.
So how would we measure our success?
Well, obviously in financial terms. Royalties, exports, sales, increased yields and new products.
The UK has to be a major player in global research.
What are the barriers to achieving these outcomes?
Too many regulations and political divisions in the UK and the EU.
Funding.
Perception of the industry.
Commercialization is difficult because there are too many small farms in different sectors.
The government must have a clear position to take to Europe.
Changes to the regulatory framework.
And a clear strategy for biotech.
And incentives for investment.
We need better cooperation with our researchers and in academia.
And a clear response to anti-GM groups.
Farmers wouldn't grow these crops if they didn't benefit from doing so. Governments wouldn't license these technologies if they didn't recognise the economic, environmental and public benefits.
Well, the truth is, a lot of farmers don't grow these crops, and there are still many governments who will not license these technologies because the economic benefits do not outweigh the public and environmental risks. In March of 2014, an independent report came out, presented by an advisory group to the government in order to fast-track GM foods here in the UK. So, who were these independent authors?
I don't know if when I grow, if it will show that I'm capable of so much more than growth as I grow. And I don't know if where I go, when I go, is where I was supposed to go, but I know that I have got to go. So speak with care and be aware that certain things everywhere remain unknown, no matter how you grow. Speak with care and be aware that certain things everywhere remain unknown, no matter what you know.
These scientists were chosen by the Council for Science and Technology, who are responsible for advising on science policy to the Prime Minister. The report suggests that GM is the answer to starvation in the developing world with an aim to expand with British influence, especially in Africa. The authors advise that Britain move forward with GM, even if the rest of Europe says no. Something they see as a problem? Experimentation and commercial release of GM crops in the EU is subject to much more stringent regulation than conventionally bred plants. Well, shouldn't they be? And to whom should Britain look for its cues on commercial development of GM? The report says the USA, and it's such a good model to follow because it uniquely operates deregulation. That means the biotech companies can legally say their products are equivalent to the non-GM version, so their products should no longer be regulated or labeled. In other words, the purple tomato is legally the same thing as the red. It might be a good time to say something back.
I'm gonna start a war. I'm gonna start a war with my music, and I'll do it with or without you. What did we start fighting for? Please tell me, I really can't see it anymore. What's the purpose? How can this be worth it if they won't even fight back? Maybe we should all become whores, kill each other for the things that we sell each other for, that we could a grayer man than you, a much lighter shade of blue in his eyes, in his smile, and in his words. You will have all sorts of questions. All he will have is clues in his eyes, in his smile, and in his words. And he will tell you about the mountains. He'll tell you about the trees. He'll tell you about the ocean. He will tell you about the breeze. It's not about how they've died or how they came to be. No, it's not about their fears or anyone belief. It's not about the world being separate human beings. It's not about taking sides. It's all about being free.